Hi, my name is Michael Seacrest. I'm one of the developers on the SpeedTree team, and in this video I'll be showing you how to use meshes to control the shape of your models. This is accomplished by using a force type not covered in the previous tutorial called mesh forces. So to get started showing you that, I'm going to first import a mesh in the scene, and I'm going to use kind of a contrived example just to show how this stuff works. I'm going to start just by adding a sphere. So we have a sphere mesh now, and this is the same way you would add a mesh if you were going to put it on, use it for leaves or put it on fronds or any other way. Anywhere you use a mesh, you do that through the meshes tab here. So I've got a mesh in the system now, and I'll drop it in here to create a mesh force in the scene. And I'll move it up a little bit. So there we go. We have a sphere in the scene, and it's a force like any others, just a different type, mesh type. And we add some geometry here to show how you can use it to interact. Add a default spine. I'm going to change a few things about it. I'm going to make it a lot longer, and I'm going to make sure that it never breaks and that it never bifurcates. And I'm going to randomize this till I get one close to the middle. Okay, there's one that hits the sphere. I'm also going to take put a green material on this guy so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so we have a default spine object colliding with a sphere mesh here, and there's absolutely no interaction with it right now. So I'm going to go to the spine I created in the forces group. You can see there's a mesh in here, a force in here called sphere. That's the one I added. I'm going to turn that on. Toggling on at this point has no effect because we haven't made any settings on the mesh force. So it's on. I'm going to click on the mesh force and start by setting it the force action. So you can have it to have no effect on the growth of the geometry. You can make it avoid the mesh or be attracted to the mesh. We'll start by making it avoid the mesh. So you can see that kind of pushed it out, but it doesn't completely avoid it. This just sort of gets a tendency to avoid it. And how much it avoids it is controlled by the force strength. So as I increase that, it pushes the geometry gradually further and further away from it. So I'm going to bring it back in so they are colliding, and take the next step, which is what do you do when you collide, and that's the collide action. So I'll change this to obstruct, and you can see that as soon as it hits the sphere, it obstructs it and causes it to go along the surface, and then the fact that it's avoiding it means it never touches it again. So it pushes it away and then avoids it and continues to grow on. If we change the force action to attract, it'll start to pull it in some. If I take this strength up, we can really make it collide and be attracted to this guy. If you take it up to a pretty high strength, you can see it hits and then kind of stays and crawls along the surface of the mesh. Now to make it, say we wanted this to actually go up to the top, maybe I've got it a little bit high, I'm going to lower that guy a little bit. We could add another force. We could add a magnet force up here. Take the strength of this guy up and kind of pull it up using the magnet. I'm going to get this guy right over the top. So increase the strength of the magnet again and kind of get it to go up there. But you can see that at the top it pulls it off, so maybe that's a little bit too much. So using one of these force profile curves, I'll take a look at the magnet curve, and I'm going to change this to a bell curve shape. So what that does is that early on in the growth of this spine object, the magnet has little influence on it, has the most influence in the middle, and again little influence at the end. So now it kind of grows up and has maybe a more natural growth pattern along the surface of the sphere object. And sort of just to show you what that would look like, I'll go ahead and make 20 of these guys. So now there's 20 spine objects in there, and I can grab this guy, move it around. You can see how it interacts. They're still being attracted to it. When they hit, they collide. I'm going to keep moving around here, see if we can find a few more interesting talking points. Something else we can do is we can control what happens when you hit the mesh, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this frequency back down to 1. So you can, if you click over here, there's a keep action. So we can decide to keep only hits or misses. So if we keep the misses, you can see that thing hit, so we didn't keep it. If we keep the hits, we only keep the ones that hit. And if I take the frequency back up to 20 and move this guy around, you eventually see some guys start to drop out when they don't hit. so the ones that don't hit are dropping out. If we change this force type to avoid, and we want to keep only the misses, as we increase the avoid strength, we'll see more and more pop in. The ones that miss the mesh pop in. So you can use this to sort of prune out areas where you don't want things growing and things of that nature. So this is sort of, like I said before, this is a contrived example. It's maybe not be something you'd be looking to do. So I'm going to show a couple of examples from the that are more realistic. One of them is that the broadleaf sample that comes with every version of SpeedTree has got a mesh force in it. And it's these rocks down here along the roots. So I'm going to turn the ground off so we can see underground and click on this mesh force. And as I move it around, you can see the roots are attracted to it. And they're attracted to it and they grow around it. And if you look at this, at the mesh force properties, there's the mesh, which is once again is just an arbitrary 3D model we loaded in. And it's an attract force and it's destructing when it hits it. And you can do things like has standard transform properties, so I can scale this thing up and down. As I scale it, the tree model adapts. And another example would be vines going around a sort of ruined shack. So here we have another 3D model. We've got vines and leaves growing off those vines, and the vines have 4 mesh forces on it, or has a magnet in the center that's pulling all the vines, trying to pull them into the middle of the house, and then it's got 3 mesh forces: the wood, and then the roof, and then there's another one on there as well, the tile pieces there on that roof. So these all have different settings, causing the vines to go in and around the geometry, and it's kind of interesting effects. You can see this vine growing up through that, sort of gets caught in the crack there. You see vines growing in the windows with the light source around here so you can see a little better. Crawling up the sides, growing in and out of the doors. And you can do things like click on the vines, maybe take a look at the wood and add some variance. So some of them, say add a 0.15 variance to that. And when I do that, each vine is attracted more or less than the others in the group to it, and you can do things like randomize that effect and just get different growth patterns, things like that. So that's how you use meshes to control the shape of geometry, and that concludes this video. Thanks for watching, and look for more instructional videos on the SpeedTree YouTube channel and at SpeedTree.com.